Let my father go and I'll make you walk again. The courtroom erupted in laughter, until the judge rose by himself. Before we begin, drop a comment below. Tell us what time it is and where you're tuning in from. Also, don't forget to strike that like and subscribe. Let's dive in. The gavel hit with a sharp echo. All rise, the bailiff called. Everyone stood as Judge Samuel Davis entered, his black robe flowing over the sides of his wheelchair. At 62, his presence commanded respect. His paralyzed legs never dulled the sharpness in his steel blue eyes. For the last decade, he'd earned a reputation for being ruthless, especially toward men like the one sitting in front of him today. Michael Adams, a black man in his late 30s, sat handcuffed, his faded peach jumpsuit a testament to his time behind bars. Charged with obstruction, fraud, and resisting arrest, he appeared resigned. The court saw another case, another number. But to Judge Davis, it was a no-brainer. A repeat offender with no remorse. Tension filled the room as the trial reached its climax, sentencing. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the recommendation is no less than 15 years. The defendant has wasted this court's time with his absurd claims of false imprisonment. Despite the overwhelming evidence, he continues to lie about his identity and abilities. It's time for him to face the music. Michael lowered his head. His public defender, long defeated, remained silent. Judge Davis straightened, ready to deliver the verdict. But then the heavy courtroom doors groaned open. Something unexpected was about to unfold. The soft echo of tiny footsteps filled the courtroom. Gasps rippled through the room. A little girl, no more than 7, stepped in. She wore a light blue dress, her hair neatly braided into 2 strands. She was alone. No adult followed her. No one stopped her. Without hesitation, she walked straight down the aisle, past the murmuring lawyers, the surprised bailiffs, and the onlookers. She stopped right in front of Judge Davis's bench. "Who is this child?" the judge demanded, his face twisted in confusion. Before anyone could respond, the girl met his gaze, her eyes steady and unwavering. "Let my daddy go and I'll make you walk," she said calmly. The courtroom erupted in laughter. Snickers came from the gallery and the prosecutor couldn't stifle a chuckle. Even a guard shook his head with a grin. Judge Davis blinked, caught completely off guard. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice low. "I said if you let him go," she repeated, unwavering. "I'll make you walk." Davis leaned back, his disbelief evident. "This is not the place for jokes or fairy tales. Bailiff, get her out of here." Suddenly, Michael rose halfway from his seat. "Please," he pleaded, "just let her speak." "Sit down," Davis snapped, clearly annoyed. "This is highly irregular." The girl spoke again, her voice steady. "I came because you're not listening. Nobody listens to my dad. They don't even know who he really is." Davis raised an eyebrow. "And who is he?" "He used to help people before you locked him up. He made them better." The chuckles in the room grew louder, even the stenographer had to hide her smile. The judge glared at his clerk, visibly irritated. "Why is she even here? Who let her in?" "She's his daughter," the bailiff explained awkwardly. "She walked in by herself, refused to leave. We didn't know what to do." "You should have stopped her at the door," Davis growled. "We tried," the bailiff muttered. "And then everything changed." The judge turned his gaze to the girl. "What's your name, young one?" "Faith." A heavy silence fell over the room. Davis swallowed hard. "Faith, I don't know what you expect to happen here, but this is a courtroom, not a place for whatever this is." "This is exactly where it needs to happen," she replied, her voice unwavering. "You've been in that chair for 10 years, haven't you?" Davis stiffened. "That's none of your concern. You couldn't feel your legs after the accident. They told you your spine was broken. They said you'd never walk again." Her words hung in the air like a challenge. His lips tightened. "But you want to walk." His hands gripped the wheels of his chair so tightly his knuckles turned white. Faith moved closer, her gaze steady. The bailiff shuffled nervously. "I'm not here to scare you," she said softly, "but I'm asking you something no one else will. Please, don't hurt my dad again. He didn't lie. You just didn't believe him." Davis's eyes flickered to Michael. His jaw clenched tight, his body stiff. Faith raised her hand slowly as if reaching for something invisible. "If you give him back to me," she whispered, "I'll give you something back too." Davis opened his mouth to speak but paused, his breath catching. For the first time in a decade he felt something different. Not pain, not tingling, just a gentle warmth like sunlight sinking into his knees. He glanced down at his legs. Nothing moved, yet something had shifted. He looked back at Faith and the courtroom held its breath. Faith lifted her hand a little higher. "Please," she repeated, "let him go." Tears welled up in Michael's eyes, his voice trembling as he spoke. "She's not lying." What would happen next was beyond anyone's expectations. Judge Davis's eyes locked onto the little girl in front of him. For the first time in his career, words failed him. The entire room fell silent, hanging on every breath. Davis's gaze stayed fixed on the small hand extended toward him, unwavering, steady. The warmth he'd felt moments earlier hadn't faded. It was growing, slowly working its way through nerves he thought were long dead. An impossible flutter stirred in his stomach. Faith didn't flinch, didn't pull her hand back. The room remained frozen, the bailiffs uncertain, waiting for the judge's signal. Davis's hands slowly released their grip on the wheelchair's rims. "What are you doing to me?" "I'm not doing anything," she replied softly. "You've always wanted to walk. I'm just unlocking what's still inside you. You're just a child." She nodded. "And you're afraid." His jaw tightened. "Afraid? You think I'm scared of a fairy tale?" "No," she answered, "you're scared of being wrong." Her words hit harder than he anticipated. His grip on the armrest tightened. She was right. For the last decade, he had accepted paralysis not just in his body, but in his spirit, his mind, his judgments. The moment he lost his ability to walk was the day he chose to shut out everything he couldn't control, couldn't explain. He glanced over at Michael, who was watching his daughter with wide eyes, full of awe but not surprise. "You knew she could do this?" Davis asked. Michael swallowed. "She's done small things, miracles, little moments I thought were just coincidences. But I never asked her to do this. I never let her try." "Why now?" "Because I told her I wasn't going to make it out of here. That I might be gone for a long time, and she said, 'Not if I help.'" Davis's gaze shifted back to Faith. The warmth had reached his thighs now. He blinked at his legs. And for the first time in 10 years his right foot moved. What came next no one could have predicted. The courtroom exploded into chaos. Gasps, shouts, and the screech of chairs scraping across the floor. Faith stood unshaken. Michael, his hands still cuffed, stood up, his body trembling. "Judge, what's happening?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Davis's face went pale as he stared down in disbelief. His left foot twitched, then shifted. Slowly, painfully, he pressed his palms on the arms of the chair and pushed himself up. For the first time in years he was standing on his own 2 feet. The room fell dead silent. The prosecutor's mouth hung open. The bailiff took a step back, his eyes wide as if he'd seen a ghost. Judge Samuel Davis stood, shaking but standing. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Faith stepped back and smiled. "Now please, give me back my dad." Davis collapsed back into his chair, not from failure, but from shock. His whole body trembled. This is impossible." But no one was laughing now. The clerk whispered, "Sir, what do we do now?" Davis stared at the file before him. Michael's record, years of arrests, most dismissed, one charge with no conviction. This current case based on an anonymous tip, no solid evidence, and no victim willing to testify. It had always bothered him, but he buried it under assumptions. "Bring me the arresting officer's report," he ordered, his voice trembling. Moments later, the courtroom buzzed with activity. Papers shuffled, documents appeared, and along with them, the truth, inconsistencies, timeline gaps, fabricated testimony. It all unraveled in minutes. Less than an hour later, Judge Davis stood again, his voice trembling. "Mr. Michael Adams," he began slowly, "I hereby reverse the judgment. You are cleared of all charges. Your record is expunged, and this court owes you an apology." Faith dashed into her father's arms. Michael fell to his knees, still bound by chains, and pulled her close. "She did what she promised," he whispered, his face buried in her shoulder. Davis stepped forward cautiously. "I need to know, how did she do that?" Michael stood, locking eyes with him. "She didn't heal you. She reminded you that you could heal yourself." Davis shook his head. "That doesn't make sense." "It's not supposed to," Michael replied. Then for the first time in years, Davis smiled. "You're free, Mr. Adams." Bailiff, remove his chains. With a loud clatter, the shackles fell to the floor. Michael lifted Faith into his arms, tears streaming down both their faces. They turned to leave, but just before they reached the door, Davis called out, "Faith." She turned back. "Thank you." She nodded. "Now maybe you can believe again." And with that, everything changed. If this story moved you, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe for more heart-stirring, dramatic, and unpredictable tales. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop a comment below and join the conversation. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.